morning and welcome to the NBA Daily presented by Amazon Prime for January 22nd, 2026. I'm Dave DuFour here with Fred Katz and Zena Keita. Coming up, we go deep with Fred Katz on Norm Powell's bow legs and also the Knicks and where they're going to go from here. Good morning, everybody. What's up, Zena? What's up, Fred? Welcome back. How's it going, buddy?
Going great. I'm committed to short, dispassionate answers for the entire episode.
See, this is the problem. All right, just to pull back the veil a little bit for people listening at home. See, Fred is one of our favorite guests on the show because we do this every single day. And Fred doesn't, and he always has so much to say that we get to just sit back a little bit. And I'm not going to say these are rants because, you know, that implies that it's a negative thing. These are more like, they're not monologues either.
They're like just NBA lectures. Like we're in college, we're learning something.
NBA lectures with Fred Katz. I've been playing around with what we call this, but I like that. NBA Professor Katz.
There you go.
Yes. I mean, look, if there's one way to get people to listen to a podcast, it's to tell them, hey, this guy who's on, not only does he talk too much, but he's also going to lecture you.
I guess lecture.
I would say that, Dave, you're correct in that it's because I'm not on here all the time, except every single person in my life tells me to shut the hell up 19 times a day. So wow. I don't know if that's necessarily true. Stephen Bondi from the New York Post and I have a great joke because he and I are very good friends, and Bondi writes for the Post, and like New York, you know, newspapers have these incredibly high stress deadlines where you have to send in 900 stories by a certain time. And I'll just turn to Bondi and start telling him a story when he's 1 minute from deadline, and I'll be 19 minutes into the story. And so he's now started to just turn to me and be like, Fred, can I curse on here?
No, this is a children's show, Fred.
Yeah. There are choice curse words, but I'm always like, oh, right. Sorry. I normally laugh.
You're all good.
Well, listen, again, one of our favorites for this reason. I want to, before we get to the Knicks, and we are going to talk about the Knicks, I want to talk about your Norm Powell story over at The Athletic, because this guy's having an amazing season and it's flown a little bit under the radar. Zena has been saying for, I don't know, about a month that Norm Powell is one of the best players in the Eastern Conference and that Miami would have fallen apart. I mean, she's right, of course, but Fred, this story is very interesting, especially the part about his legs.
His legs are weird. I never knew. Did you guys know that about his legs?
I mean, I've seen him.
Definitely seen it.
But it didn't occur to me. I mean, there's plenty of people, but his legs are very pronounced in the way that they're weird.
Yeah, they're bow-legged, and I was unfamiliar with the concept. Like I think I was obviously, I think I was in the minority. I think I just had a huge knowledge gap.
Full disclosure, Zena and I talked about this before the show, and we were trying to guess how you would pronounce bow-legged because like we're from the South, so we say bow-legged, but shouldn't it be bow-legged?
I think it's legged.
Oh, no, it is.
It is.
We didn't know if that was like a Southern influence on it.
Yeah, sorry.
So wait, on that note though, really quickly, Brett, do you know what knock-kneed is?
I assume the opposite.
Correct.
Yeah. Like pigeon-toed. I know pigeon-toed.
Yes. So if you are bow-legged, the knees go outwards. If you are knock-kneed, they go inwards towards each other.
Right. Like famed NFL referee Ed Knockney.
Or Kenny Smith. From the NBA now.
Mm-hmm. That was a bad Ed Hockley.
Yeah. So did Norm Powell grow up riding horses? Like what is it behind the bow-leggedness?
So really the way it happened was because I was talking to him. He was nice enough to sit down with me for a while about kind of the season that he's had. And what stands out to me so much about him and what I wrote this story about is his adaptability. Because to be honest, I said this to his face, I kind of put Norm Powell in a box. I kind of thought I knew what Norm Powell was. I kind of thought he was an instant offense guy who was going to be a second side option in second units, good scorer, that kind of stuff, and a good player. But last year, he really surprised me with the way that the Clippers were using him, just running him around more screens than he had ever run around in his entire life and using him totally differently. And I said this around the end of last season where he played 60 games, but if he had played 65 or if the 65 game rule didn't exist, which I don't think it should for MIP, because if the whole point of the 65 game rule is not to legitimize awards, that's just I guess, unintended consequence of it. The whole point of it is to encourage people not to load manage.
Right.
I don't think anybody in the history of the NBA has ever been like, I could load manage, but I might not get MIP.
Right. Yeah.
I could load manage, but what if I don't get clutch player of the year? Like I get the logic for like MVP and all NBA and all defense and all that kind of stuff, even if I don't think it's a great rule, but like, I don't get the logic for MIP.
I would actually be okay with just for the team awards. So like all NBA, all defense, you have to play 65 games, and the other awards being not tied to this. I mean, they're going to make a change for it. Like, I think that this year is probably the tipping point. You don't think so?
No, because it's got to be negotiated in the labor deal, and that's really complicated.
Fair. Yeah.
They can't just be like, oh, we hate it, you hate it. Like, it's always a negotiation. Someone's going to come across and be like, we hate it. And the other side's going to be like, oh, okay, you hate it. Well, then I guess you should give us something back. And they're going to be like, we know you hate it too. We're not giving you anything back. Just do it. And then they're going to be like, nope, you said you hate it first. You got to give us something back. And that's it. And then it gets renegotiated in the next CBA. So like, I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I'm just saying like, it's more complicated than like a lot of people don't like it. So they're going to change it. It has to actually be negotiated in the collective bargaining agreement as opposed to being just some grand pronouncement from the league. But I said at the end of last year, like if Norm Powell were eligible for MIP, I would have voted for him for MIP because not only did he put up career numbers with the Clippers, but he did it in a way that we hadn't seen. And I kind of think, a guy in his 30s completely changing the way that he played, becoming this off-ball menace and scrambler of defenses that we had never seen before. I thought that that's kind of the embodiment of MIP. Like, it's not like Ja Morant, who was supposed to be awesome, was already awesome and then became even more awesome. Like, that's not the embodiment of MIP to me. The embodiment of MIP is somebody who does it, in a different kind of trajectory.
It's a blue collar award, right? Like, it's not like a prestige, like, oh, I was a top 10 pick and I had a rough first 2 years. I feel the same way.
And then he goes to Miami this year. Miami is setting less screens than you could ever imagine any NBA team set. Although they've done it a little more lately, but he's not running around screens and he's doing it off of ISOs. And now if you look at the second spectrum numbers, first of all, he's already set a career high in number of isolations for a season. He's on pace to more than double his previous career high. And if you set the minimum at 200 isolations in a single season, which he's already over, if you set the isolation at 200 isolations in a season, since Second Spectrum started tracking that stat in 2013, there have been like 600 something seasons where players have had 200 plus isolations. And the Heat are scoring 127.2 points per 100 possessions on passes, shots, turnovers, and fouls out of Norm Powell isolations.
Wow.
That would make for the most efficient isolation season ever since this stat started being tracked 13 years ago. And all of a sudden, it's like this dude changed his game completely by running around a bunch of screens last year. Now he's changed his game completely, going one-on-one. Now, I will say not all isolations are created equal, right? Like, there's a difference between like prime James Harden with Houston, where it's like 19 dribbles, gonna create something, get to my step back. Then he is Norm Powell, who's not necessarily always bringing it up. A lot of it is like getting a mismatch in transition and attacking, or it's getting the ball on the move because the Heat are all about like cuts and then refilling spots for the cutter. Like, and then he attacks 2-3 dribbles off of that, but he's been tremendously efficient. He had some Rain Man moments in our interview where I was like, oh my goodness, you're talking about if he makes this read, then I go this way, this way, this way, this way, this way. And I pulled some of it out of the article because I thought it was so dry. But in the moment, and even in retrospect, I'm like, I don't know, you guys are nerds like me, so you probably love the quotes. But I was like, I could hear, not knock on my editor, I could hear literally any editor being like, Fred, you're too in only you. Only you care about this. This does not read the way you want it to read. he's really become someone who thinks the game and has changed a lot. And he's got some really messed up legs. His legs are like so bow-legged.
They don't look like they're comfortable.
It's incredibly pronounced. Okay, so about the comfort, that's the thing that was interesting to me. Like the fact that the biomechanics of how his legs are shaped are actually like shock absorbers for him. And remembering, for those of you that don't, like maybe just were learning about Norm Powell this year, or maybe just last year when he was with the Clippers going off, this guy was drafted in 2015. Like he's been in the league for a very long time. And I'm just curious at that rate, especially as we keep talking about these older, more wise players in the league that obviously their bodies are wearing and tearing, the amount of usage for Norm Powell with the combination of these shock absorber legs, is there any concern that he has around the wear and tear on his knees and his legs?
I don't think he has any on his knees. He's had some ankle issues over the years, and I think that's the concern. But like when he was growing up, doctors first told him about it when he was a kid. Like they told him, and like to be clear, there's bow-legged and then there's Norm Powell.
Yes.
Like
it is prominent, yeah.
So the way that I first noticed it was Norm pointing it out to me. So we're in an arena, where we're in the heat practice facility, I should say, and we're sitting down on the side of the court. And I had asked him, I was like, do you think because something that always stood out to me about him is I don't think anybody has steps back farther on their step back than Norm Powell. I'm not even talking about like how much space he creates, just like the actual stride. And I was like, do you think anyone takes like steps back more on their step back more than you? And he laughed and he was like, that's funny. I haven't really thought about that. And I was like, I just feel like every time I watch you step back, I like vicariously tear my groin. Like it's just really painful for me to watch. And then he was like, it's probably because I'm bow-legged. And
I think it's probably that everybody does a third step on the step back, Fred. I think that's actually the thing. And he's just really, really good at it. This was something that started last year, right? When he was playing for the Clippers. I mean, he became such an elite 3-point guy. And a lot of it was his step back. I don't know whether he didn't go to it as much, or maybe he added the third step that everyone else was doing and he got better at it. But he was knocking that thing down and it caused everything else to open up for him.
So he added it. So him and his trainer, AJ Diggs, will watch a lot of guys. He's a huge hoops head and he'll watch a lot of guys and he'll be like, ooh, I like that move. So like when he was in Portland, he saw like Dame working on his sidestep 3 up close. And he was like, oh, I really want to study that. So he'd say to his trainer, he'd be like, hey, can you really break down in video for me, like the mechanics of this, how this happens, and can we just work on this all summer? And a few summers ago, he wasn't teammates with Drew Holiday, but he really liked the way that Drew Holiday used his step back to be able to get to the 3-point arc when he was inside the 3-point arc. And Drew Holiday has a very long stride on his step back as well. Norm's just taller. And so he was like, I'm going to try to take that. So he told his trainer, and his trainer prepared a bunch of clips, and they kind of just studied Drew Holiday, who's a fellow UCLA guy and somebody who I know Norm respects a ton. And he kind of stole that move from Drew Holiday. It works really well. But I asked him, so I didn't even know, honestly, I'm probably an idiot. I didn't even know what it was. I was like, I thought he said boat-legged. I was like, boat-legged?
Yeah, he floats.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Only his legs float. The rest of him sinks. It's his head. His head goes underwater as his ankles just drift above, would be boat-legged.
I think this is a two Americas thing, Fred. Like Zena and I, we know horse people. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And Fred, you just don't know any.
He said he was born like that. And I was like, what is that? And he didn't say anything. He literally just stood up and he just put his legs together and he put his arms like straight by his side. And he has this huge smile. He's so excited. I've never seen anyone so excited.
Yeah,
I just saw the
he
Knicks
looks like
win
a cartoon cowboy.
But I
when
think
you
it's
look
also,
at his silhouette.
Yeah, I think he probably was so excited because it is rare to, especially as a basketball player, people talk about this, like a lot of athletes, if you are bow-legged, it adds a little bit to your swag. Cause as you're walking, as you're running, it's just got a little bit to it. LeBron is slightly bow-legged. Like there's certain athletes that you see. And so it is very rare to go your entire life, play 9 years in the league, and someone asks you, what is bow-legged? He was probably like, oh, like this is like teaching a language to someone. I can't wait to show you. You know what I mean? So
he stood up. I'm going to seem like I'm exaggerating. I'm not. This was the smile.
Well, it was for those of you listening to the show. It was a very goofy, big smile from Fred Katz.
It was all teeth. I saw all of his teeth. It was just all teeth. I've never seen anyone so happy, and he arms just straight by his side, and he shows me, and his legs. They look like. I mean, I have a quote in the story where Bam Adebayo says his legs look like parentheses, and which I've never been so furious. I mean, it's an unbelievable quote. I've never been so furious to get a quote in my entire life.
So
because
good.
I had already written the lead, and I was told, I asked someone with the Heat, I was like, who's Norm close with? Like, and somebody directed me to Bam mentioning one time on a podcast that his mother is bow-legged and that he jokes about it with Norm. And somebody with the Heat. And so the Heat directed me to that. And they were like, yeah, Bam and Norm are really close. See if you can get Bam after a game while you're in Miami. So I didn't know if I was going to get him. It's like, after a Thunder game, and like, I'm like, oh, they're playing the Thunder tonight. Like if they get boat raced or something like that, it's like, this is a goofy interview. Like, I don't know. Like it's disrespectful.
Let me talk to you about your bow-leggedness after you just got beat by 30 games.
Well, I had spoken to Norm.
I
wanted to walk up to Bam and ask some goofy questions about his friend's bow-leggedness. Like it's like just not respectful or professional. And even if Bam were the nicest human being in the world, it's just like after a loss, it's like if you're a competitor, your head is in another place. You're just not even going to be good in the interview. The Thunder. The Heat end up winning that game in a thrilling game. Bam sets a career high with 6 3-point makes. And people who think that journalists have no rooting interest. So I'm like, oh yeah. So I'm able to get Bam.
Most important thing.
I'm able to get Bam after the game. And Bam could not have been more into the interview topic. Just was like,
that's great.
Was like, oh my goodness, I get to make fun of Norm's legs on the record in an article. I can use, he was basically like, I can use all my material, turn the recorder on now.
So good.
And we were kind of going back and forth and trading barbs. And he has a few quotes in the story that I thought were just incredibly funny. And in my lead I had at the time, I had referred to his legs as shaped like question marks. And so I said to Bam, I was like, his legs are shaped like question marks. And Bam said, no, they're like parentheses. And then I was like, what did Bam? I started cracking up. I was like, did Bam Adebayo just objectively one up me in a parentheses category analogy? Like what?
He eviscerated your lead of like, yeah.
I'm like, I got to redo this because that's way better than what I had. Like it was a great convo. Yeah, he was really funny.
All right. That's a lot on Norm Powell. Guys, go and read that article. It was a lot of fun. I'm glad we got a chance to talk about it. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back. We're going to talk about the Knicks and whether they're going to trade for Giannis. Okay, Fred, the Knicks, they're a mess. They've been falling apart. It feels like there's a lot of finger pointing going on. I'm not quite sure who you blame. What about you, Fred? Who do you blame for the Knicks' problems right now?
I mean, ultimately, everybody. Like, it is a bad enough product right now that you blame everybody, especially the people who are directly involved with the Encore product. You blame Mike Brown for the way that they have played their last 11 games. So their last 11 games, they've lost 9 times. Since December 16th, an 18-game stretch, they are 29th in defensive efficiency. 29th. That's not a small number. Their offense has cratered over these last 3 weeks. It's totally cratered. Their effort level has been, I mean, every game is like, got to play better. Kat and Mike Brown obviously have had some real issues connecting. That was apparent at the beginning of the season, has become increasingly apparent as the season has gone on. And Kat right now is having his worst season since he became, Kat, since he became a great, all NBA level player. And the Knicks right now, just the product is just, it's just dreadful. Like they got killed by the Sacramento Kings. The Mavericks were missing everybody except for Cooper Flagg and Naji Marshall, who is like, I'm sure nobody other than Knicks fans know this. Knicks fans and Naji Marshall and maybe the Marshall family knows this. But Naji Marshall is like, how there are always those niche guys whose singular fan bases are like, oh my God, that guy destroys my team for some reason.
Chris Middleton kills the Celtics.
Mm-hmm.
Naji Marshall against the Knicks is like unbelievable. Like Naji Marshall was averaging 28 points against the Knicks coming into last night and then killed them again last night. Yeah. It's like unreal. Like it's not like, crazy. Naji Marshall has had a few games where he's gone off and he averages 13 a game. Like, no, Naji Marshall went for like 40 against the Knicks last year. Like Naji Marshall, he just floater for these floaters, ridiculous, but it's just like floater every time. It's such a hilarious, outrageous theme, but I mean, they're down 30 in the first half to Dallas at home. The product is just really bad. And, I think part of it is like the Cat Mike Brown thing has gotten worse as the season has gone on. And that's just a bad spot to be in. It's just not what you want. We can harp on the issues with the roster, the fact that their point of attack defense is not very good, the fact that the offense is not elite, which like it needs to be top 2 or 3 in order for this team to be a contender. The fact that OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges have fallen off in the last month, or that Jalen Brunson is having, in my opinion, I think the worst defensive season of his career as well. Cat gets a lot of flack on that end, but it's Brunson too. The bench can be inconsistent, but like ultimately it's just, you gotta have some amount of energy. The only guys on the team who I would say like come out both sides of the floor, I never really have ever said to myself all season, like that guy's energy and effort is not there. There are only 2 guys. I guess McBride would be the third. McBride can like get into the slog, but I don't think he doesn't play hard. But Mitchell Robinson and Josh Hart are the 2 who really stand out, who I'm like, those guys are going for throats. But even Mitchell Robinson like is not having his best defensive season because he's on minutes restrictions and he has injuries. And I think he feels like he can't be as reckless as he often wants to be because of the risk of injury and all of that. And, they sit him so often, and it's just, they're not in a good place right now.
My question is that there was such a big shift. Like, it's not as if this has like been going on this entire season. Like, we didn't see a high octane offense and we were all like, oh, Mike Brown was the guy. Like, good job bringing in Mike Brown over Tom Thibodeau. But all of a sudden we've seen this drastic shift in the top of the new year. And there are 2 things that come to mind. You recently wrote about this, the going from the rigid rotations of Tom Thibodeau to the anyone can cook mentality of Mike Brown. You see Mike Brown put out some very interesting combos, because he's testing things. He's getting ready to see what could we use in a playoff situation. Feeling pretty confident that the Knicks are going to go to the playoffs. Just how far they'll go is the question. So there's that aspect, this system that is kind of like Ratatouille-esque, right? But then you also have this personnel issue. You just listed a few of them. Point of attack defense. You don't have this like grit and grind type of defender at the top of the key. You struggle with, size inside, being able to, hold down the fort inside. And you don't have a great wing defender. And you don't have depth at those positions that would be all those things. Is this a personnel thing that you got to fix, a.k.a. the trade deadline? Or is this a system thing, a.k.a. Mike Brown, lock in, find your rotation?
I think this is a personality thing.
Tell me more.
Ultimately, like, I agree with all of the critiques of the Knicks roster that anybody might have.
Mm-hmm.
They could use a second ball handler. No question. They're going to try to see what they can get for Yabusele and picks. And, maybe they throw Dadier in there. And maybe they throw another one of the young guys in there and they see what they can get for that package because Yabusele has not worked out. Maybe they could use an extra wing off the bench. They definitely are struggling defending the point of attack. Like I don't really care. Like that was all true a month and a half ago.
Right.
None of that is new. That was all true coming into the season. Coming into the season when you could have very easily, and I did pick this team to make the finals and I wouldn't right now, but coming into the season when you could have picked this team to make it to the finals, coming off the cup win when they were the favorites to make the finals, according to Vegas, like those were all criticisms of the team then. Those were all these sorts of X's and O's things that they could have wanted to solve. And it sounds so, I don't know, it sounds so cliched as just like, just do it. Just play better.
Well, that is the adjustment though.
Yeah.
You just gotta not play like crap. Like you just gotta like try and run back on defense. The Dallas Mavericks, who don't play past,
right,
didn't have their guys, had 27 fast break points in the first half.
Yeah.
In the first half. In a game where they should have been like, damn, we had a road trip before. We came home for one already. We're playing poorly, come out with some amount of vigor. Then you get to the third quarter and it's like, Mike Brown said after the game that, he liked the way they played in the second half more. But I don't know. There are still possessions in that second half where it's like Dallas is streaking down the court. The Knicks aren't rushing back.
Yeah.
Like you shouldn't, when you're down 30 to Dallas, you shouldn't be like, well, we're down 30. I guess we don't have to go. You got to be like, have some pride.
Well, especially when you're already playing like trash for the last, month. I mean, it'd be one thing if it was like the Timberwolves getting, they lose to the Jazz. Sometimes you're going to get blown out in the NBA, even good teams, right? Like you don't have your best every night. But especially when you've been struggling, it seems like a little bit of pride would show up. But they don't seem to have it. I mean, we're at the point where you have people speculating that they might move on from Mike Brown, that they may trade Cat. What are they going to do, Fred? Tell me, like, look in the crystal ball. Where is this going? Is it Giannis? Is that going to happen?
I don't think it'll happen mid-season. I don't see how they could possibly trade for Giannis mid-season unless Giannis, and to be clear, I don't think this is what will happen, but I think the only possible way that they can end up with Giannis mid-season is if Giannis goes to the Bucks before the trade deadline. So in the next 2 weeks, says, I want out and I only want to go to the Knicks. And then the Bucks say, okay, we love you so much that we'll do you the solid of making a terrible trade to send you out. How many first round picks the Knicks can trade for Giannis right now?
One.
Wizards protected?
Yeah,
right?
but that's not a first round pick.
Yeah, that's not a first round pick. Yeah.
Yeah, the Wizards protected first round pick isn't a first round pick.
Yeah.
They could swap a couple of first rounders.
Yeah.
They could swap a 2030. They could swap a 2032. So the Bucks are going to do Karl Anthony Towns and no guaranteed first round picks for Giannis. They're just going to be like, sure, go for it. Like they love Deuce McBride that much. It's not a knock on Deuce McBride. Deuce McBride is like the one guy this year who it's like, he's been awesome the whole way. But like, that's not happening. If you put Giannis anywhere near, if you're like Giannis, just give us two other teams. Those two other teams will blow that offer away. Now, if you get to the summer, the Knicks can trade their 2026 pick, which is probably not going to be a great pick, even with the way that they're trending. They're still third in the East, even after all of this, because the East is the East. And it opens up a 2033 pick that the Knicks would be able to trade. even in that case, I still don't think the Knicks could make an enticing offer. And I still think it would have to take Giannis putting his finger on the scale and saying, let's do this. Like, let's be real. It's been reported in various places that Giannis talked to the Bucks last year over the summer and in August, and the Knicks had an exclusive negotiating window with Milwaukee, and there was nothing ever really close to getting done. Why do we think there wasn't anything close to getting done? Do we think it's because the Knicks were like, no way we're including Tyler Kolek? Or do we think it's because the Knicks didn't have, now Mikal Bridges couldn't be traded at that point because he wasn't extension eligible. However, which one we think is more likely? Because the Knicks were like, oh no, that Wizards pick is going to become 2 second rounders. And you know what? The Wizards are pretty bad. Those are going to be some good second round picks. And you never know. You end up with pick number 33. Anything can happen. Like, we think that's the case, or we think the Bucks were like, make us your greatest offer. And the Knicks made their greatest offer. And the Bucks were like, like the Knicks aren't in a position to make that trade unless a player successfully forces his way into it. We've seen no sign that Giannis, I mean, look, we've seen signs that Giannis might end up leaving Milwaukee at some point in the near future. We've seen no sign that Giannis is going to be like, I am going to be incredibly forceful in my way out of Milwaukee, and I'm going to tell them what to do. As a matter of fact, I think if you were going to argue anything, I think you'd argue that we've seen signs of the opposite.
Yeah, that's what he told Sam Amick, that he would not be that. He's not that guy. He would not ever do anything like that. Yeah.
Yes. And maybe he won't. And it would be only human if Giannis were just like vacillating back and forth. And some days we're like, maybe I do want to go somewhere else. And other days we're like, no, this is my home. And some days we're like, yeah, I really want to compete again though. And it's like, it would be only human. That's not a reason to knock him. But even on his worst days, we haven't seen any sign that Giannis has said, I am going to completely and utterly screw the Milwaukee Bucks here.
Right. Well, hopefully that doesn't happen before this podcast comes out, because that would kind of ruin the entire lecture from Professor Katz today. Fred Katz, thanks for hanging out. Guys, go and read that Norm Powell story. Really, it's great. It's one of the reasons why Fred is one of the best at this, because he gets these guys comfortable and they will pretty much say anything to him. Thanks to Fred Katz for hanging out. Thanks to Zena Keita, as always. I'm Dave DuFour. This has been the NBA Daily. Thanks for waking up with us.